What is up, my people? Welcome back to the channel for another album review. I'm your boy Nassim the Dream. If you're new to the channel, just go right on ahead, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell as well to always keep notified on my newest content. And today we got a big one. I will be reviewing the brand new Taylor Swift album, Midnight. One of the most dominant singer-songwriters in current pop music, Taylor Swift is out with the return of her surprise drop 10th studio record, Midnight. I'm gonna state this early on. I wasn't always on the Swift train early in her career. A lot of that stuff was pretty hit or miss for me. Some of the stuff when she transitioned into more modern pop music, it was more of that stuff that was kind of hit or miss for me. The country scene of it, I was kind of a youngin' around that time in music. It wasn't really digging that much to my personal taste. But taking in her most recent work, starting with the 2021 Grammy-winning album of the year, Folklore, this was the start of a whole new version of Taylor Swift we've all been dying to see, just because this was one of the boldest steps an artist this big in pop industry has really made in recent days. And while this album was being made into lockdown, it's also very interesting to know that it was mainly made by Taylor Swift with other two collaborators, Aaron Dessner and Jack Antonoff. And it might not be a full-blown folk record per se, but I love this project. I think there's so many great songs in here with many great thoughtful concepts on most of these tracks. And next she follows up with the LP Evermore that carries over the momentum beautifully, still keeping these same tropes, but making a more brighter album this time, like making this album the light and Folklore the dark. And these two projects alone get so much praise from me personally, and I also thought that these albums could mean two things. One, there could be more independence in her music, and two, more leniency from the labels into letting Taylor and other artists create more thoughtfully and independently. And then after these two records, we have to mention Taylor coming back with many older records and re-recordings and remasters, with naming these the Taylor versions. And I thought these were also very fresh vitalizations that add more to the pile of expectations and hype as well, to the immense amount of new hype coming our way. So with this album, of course, I'm going to be expecting more evolving pop music, more growth from Taylor as a creator, not really even caring about the typical love tropes that we normally get in her music, which is basically what we get for most of this album. We start with the track Lavender Haze, with Taylor speaking about the inspiration of this track coming from the TV show Mad Men, and how after discovering the term and how it's used in the show, how it's like a really common term used in the 60s as a way to say you're in love. And this track confirms the transition back to more modern pop elements, coming within some breathy vocals and some soft hitting drums and low mix subs. I do think Taylor sounds fine on this track, but I will admit the sample choice is a bit questionable, as it really comes off as undercooked and underwhelming. And sadly, I also do feel more on the mild side with the following track, Maroon. This track really just carries over as one-dimensional aspects, with not many interesting tweaks made in the processing, as well as the writing also seems underlooked. And then we're gonna talk about the third track on here, the initial track I first heard from the drop of this album, Antihero. And all in all is an enjoyable pop track. It has a catchy chorus, some punchy drums, along with Taylor airing out some insecurities from her personally on this song. One I want to talk about specifically is when on the music video you see her on her scale, which by the way I love the music video, it's great, but when she steps on this scale it reads as fat, and that's one of the insecurities that she's kind of like fleshing out. I guess that she got a lot of backlash from this. I don't know how heavily, but at least from what I seen, she got backlash for fat shaming. I know there's not gonna be that many people watching this video, but for you to think, if you do actually think that this is fat shaming, I need to tell you, you're wrong. It is so obvious with the many points on here that Taylor mentions that this is simply a thing that she is insecure about, because this is her body. She knows when it changes. She noticed these smallest things that we don't, and she's gonna call it out. We all do it. We're all like that. And for people to really storm up this idea that she's actually trying to reach out and fat shame, you're an idiot. I'm just being real legit. You're stupid. Continuing on with my feels about the album, I really was hoping for the track, the fourth installment, Snow on the Beach, featuring Lana Del Rey, to be the next track that I actually really enjoyed, maybe as much as Antihero or more. And that is because of hearing these two singers' individual work, along with Jack Antonoff helping produce records for both of these artists, making me feel like he'll really have a trick up his sleeve for this one track, this really big build up to make something super magical. though. And in total, I do feel like it's on par with what the title is trying to mention to you, and does sort of this image of a snowy day Christmas vibe with some bells, some more bass, some hushed vocals about this spectacle of love occurring. But honestly, this track is just playing it way too safe. I think it could have really made some boundaries that could have been daring, but man, I really felt like they would have paid off, because this just sounds like it wants to be so much, but it's just really shy and just doesn't display as much joy. I did happen to find an interesting moment on the track You're On Your Own Kid after this soft first act into this song, shortly gaining speed and then bursting into like this kind of vaporwave mosaic. And ultimately, I do like this break passage. This is the one that I was really talking about that really caught my attention, as it presents a more thoughtful sequence, and I found some stereo imaging that just was pretty interesting. The writing could be so much better on here. This melody could have been so much more stronger, so much more endearing, but instead it just falls flat. Okay, sure, the vocal chops, they're there, they're pretty cool, they're enjoyable, but more power expression could have really made this track feel so amazing. Another one that I feel like was just holding back too much. Midnight Rain enters deeper into the topics and events of relationships as she ends this one in this tale to better focus on her career. Then Vigilante Shit sonically reminds me of a knockoff version of Billie Eilish's Used to See Me in the Crown. Quickly moving on to Bejeweled makes an attempt to make a synth pop ballad that unfortunately keeps flat with most of the rest of these tracks. And on the track Labyrinth, I will say I did notice more versatility into the synth uses on here that were a little bit more interesting, but there's still this overuse of like this cheeky low-pitch vocal effect that is still heavily fatigued by this point. It is used a lot for these songs, and it's just like, I mean, I guess for this one, at least the atmospheres make this song feel like it's straight out of a dream crossing on like the sky on a cloud, but I just can't get over this. Like this sound is just beating a dead horse. It needs to go away. And at this point, I am really crossing my fingers to hopefully find one of these last few tracks to contain something with more complex creativity ideas or defined sound design or production. I don't necessarily really get that. It mostly falls short all the way through, and I mean, I guess I can say I was somewhat satisfied with the closer, Mastermind. Everything on this one felt like it was more leveled and more well mastered, as like the clarity was way more vivid on this one, and it just felt like this track could be compared to the rest. And this track also reads as an acknowledgement to her fans, calling her a mastermind, where she cleverly plants Easter eggs into her music, which I didn't really notice. Like I said, I wasn't that long of a fan of Taylor Swift, like how much have I invested in her ever since Folklore. And it also ends on a serious note with, I believe, her current lover, and like how she knew that they were meant to be together, and her sharing this note to her other lover, and him just kind of just like smiling it off and also agreeing. It's a cute note to end off of, I will say that. Okay, so I kind of felt like people were maybe overreacting off like the biasy, what they were really judging off the production for this record. Yeah, now that I played it, I can definitely see why people are blaming it on that and the dynamics of the sound selection and processing, because it's definitely the most lacking thing on this project. I am not gonna go on here and bash Jack Antonoff and say he's the problem. That is what most people are saying, and also it's not like Taylor isn't giving the final revision and approval for the publishing of this record. Let's just not forget how many bops this man has created. Show some damn respect. But unfortunately, as a progressional growth with this project, this doesn't really go anywhere with the intensity and quality, and overall just doesn't really exceed my expectations. Nor does this album really make the risks that I really like to see from her, what she was doing with not only the Taylor versions, but with Folklore and Evermore. I stand by when I say that I think all of these songs are playing it way too safe. In my opinion, the charts prove that. Mixing can be off at a certain point, the writing may just feel flat out poor, or even sadly I didn't feel like Taylor even shined bright enough on some of these songs. And I was really given off the wrong impression from hearing Antihero. Most of these tracks really consist of a flaw. I wasn't upset that she went back with this modern pop take, and after she transitioned from country music initially, but because of the great projects and remakes we've been getting from Taylor, I was expecting so much more bold work from her to carry on and show why she is one of the best in all pop music. To put it simply, I can really only make this as simplistically undercooked, and it's just not really reaching out to me. But I just don't feel that from here. To put it simple, I really feel like most of this record is undercooked pop music. I'm gonna have to give Taylor Swift's Midnight a 37%. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, go to like, share, and comment down below what you thought about this album. Down in the description, you see all my separate Tracklist ratings for the album, more videos, and also the links on my social media accounts, so you can keep up with me on the daily. And I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Doses. I have this thing